We are here in a very, very special place, and sacred places, here in Hawaii are called Wahi Pana. And I want to tell you a story about a Wahi Pana for my ohana. Now, it's not that far from here, especially if you're a bird. It's just right over the ridge line. But if you're in a car, it'll take you about 45 minutes, an hour to get all the way around to Pololu Valley. Hopefully many of you have been down to Pololu Valley, and it's a special place for my ohana because that's where one of our ancestors used to live. And who here has heard of Kamehameha? Okay, a couple of you have heard of Kamehameha. Now, how many of you have heard of Naiole? Not so many of you, right? Well, you would never have heard of Kamehameha if it hadn't been for Naiole. When Kamehameha was born, fulfilled the prophecy that he was going to unite the Hawaiian Islands. Well, there were many chiefs around here who decided that they didn't really want that to happen. So they had a plan. They were going to kill the baby. Well, Kamehameha's mother, who was up in Hawaii at the time, decided to entrust baby Kamehameha with Naiole. And they decided that they were going to send Naiole to a safe place, which was Waipio. So right now, just imagine going from Hawaii all the way down to Waipio. That's a crazy trek. But Naiole ran without stopping all the way down to Waipio and delivered baby Kamehameha to Waipio, where he was able to be raised safely. So we like the part about Naiole being a helper. He helped baby Kamehameha get to safety. And so that's the part that when we come up to Pololu Valley, because I'd love to take visitors over there, and I tell them the story of how Naiole saved Kamehameha. And so when we're up at the top, you look down the valleys, and it's so beautiful. And occasionally, if we have somebody who's fit enough, we'll end up hiking down into Pololu. Now, Pololu, that hike down is so steep. And I remember the first time that I took my son down there. And going down there, first off, you're warned by the trail stewards. It's like, be careful up there. Getting out of there is going to be incredibly difficult if you get hurt. So make sure that you're careful. So we ended up taking the hike down. It's all the switchbacks, and you drop down all the rocks all over the place. And we come up to Pololu and down to the beach, and it's beautiful. I'm so glad he gets to see the beach. Then we turn around and we look into the back of the valley, and it's so pastoral, such a beautiful place. And I'm so glad that my son and my wife are there to see this Wahi Pana for our ohana. And then my son bends down and picks up a piece of trash that he sees, a little piece of plastic. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Like, he's the opposite, of a litterer. If he sees a piece of plastic, he'll pick it up, put it in his pocket, and get rid of it properly. But then he sees another piece. And another piece, and another piece. Soon he looks all around, and the floor of Pololu Valley is covered in little pieces of plastic. Little pieces that are wedged in between the pohaku, stuck in the sand. And so he keeps on picking, put it in his pockets. My wife and I help him a little bit, but then we tell him, Guy, you cannot get to the end of this. This is a Mauian task. But he keeps on going. And then eventually, God, we got to go eat. We just cannot stay down here forever. And he's like, okay. So his pockets are stuffed with, all these pieces of plastic. And he hikes back up to the top. And the trail stewards up there, Auntie Sarah and Uncle Paul, are like, Kai, how was it down there? He's like, well, look what I found. All this plastic. Auntie Sarah was so sweet. She's like, here, let me go grab a Ziploc bag. You can put it in there so we can see how much you have. And she ends up taking his picture. And she says, Kai, thank you for being a helper. I know your story about Naiole. This is what you're doing. You're helping. You're being a helper like Naiole is. At that moment, Auntie Sarah encouraging him to be a helper meant everything at that point. It gave him a purpose. It gave him a role, a kuleana, for his kuleana. So after that, every time Kai has a break from school, he's like, Dad, let's go pick up trash down from Pololu. I'm like, we can go to the beach. We can go see your cousins over in Volcano. We can go do anything else. It's like, no, I want to go pick up trash. So we end up going down there. Remember one time we go down there, we're picking trash, and there's a tire that has a rusted out rim. And he's like, Dad, we got to take this out. I'm like, you got to take this out. You know the trail, right? It's so hard to get stuff out. He's like, I got an idea. He grabs a stick, puts it in the middle, like a little axle, and we carry it out to the top. When we get up to the top, Auntie Sarah takes a picture of us, and she's like, you guys are crazy, lolo, pupo. But we keep on going down there every time he has a break. Christmas comes around, Christmas Eve, and he's like, Dad, let's go. I'm like, okay, we can go, sure. So we go down there, and he's picking up trash all over the place. He finds a piece of nylon. He starts pulling on it and pulling on it. Pulling, this thing is not stopping. Then he pushes back the sand, and it turns out that he's found an industrial fishing net wedged into the sands back there. Because what happens is that the tides, the way that they work, they push all of this trash, all of these pieces of plastic, all this rubbish. You'll find slippers, bottle caps, toothbrushes, all sorts of stuff, in there because of the way the tides push everything in. And there's no good way to get it out. So I tell him, when I was a little boy, I grew up out in the Marshall Islands, out in Kwajalein, out in the middle of absolutely nowhere. And whenever we would find a piece of trash that would wash up on the beach, like a bottle or maybe one of those, big glass fishing balls from the nets, they would be absolute treasure. But sadly for his generation, that's not the case. They find trash washing up all over the place, and it's kind of sad. But I appreciate that they keep on trying. And that's what Kai was doing in this moment. He wanted to get this fishing net out. I was like, that's just plain lolo. There's just no way we're going to be able to get that out. And it's like, come on, you already got enough trash. We got like a Santa-sized sack. It's Christmas Eve, we got to go. But he keeps on asking me, like, Dad, when do we go back down and get that net? That net became his bête noire, his white whale, his pilakia nui. It was just the thing that he was just obsessed with. So finally, I have to acquiesce. I have to give in. It's spring break. And he's like, Dad, let's go. And I'm like, okay, we're going. So we go down into Pololu, and he starts pulling on this thing, pulling on this thing, pulling on this thing. And eventually, he gets it up and out. I'm like, congratulations, that's great. All right, time to go. And he's like, no, we got to actually get it out of here. I'm like, Kai, that thing weighs as much as I do. There's no way we can get this thing out. And he's like, yeah, well, what if we make it into a stretcher like we learned how to do in Scouts? And I'm like, okay, we can do this. So, but it's on the other side of that river that runs through there, right? And if you've ever been down there, you know how slippery that is, right? You have to try and scoot around, but there's no way to scoot around with this huge load that we have. And it's not just the net, but it's all the mud and all the water that's gotten soaked up in there. This thing is so heavy and so smelly. It's the only thing that smells worse than what we did at that point. So we get the thing up. We get it across the river without falling in. It was incredible. We keep on going, and we start hiking up the trail. We're carrying the load, marching up, up, up. But then the stick breaks. We have made the situation even worse. The only way to make Pololu, the trail down into Pololu, any worse is to stick an industrial-sized fishing net in the middle of the trail. There's no way for people to get around this thing. So it's like, Kai, we got to fix this, and it's getting late. We got to go. And he's like, so we're not going to carry it out? And it's like, no, we'll put it up on the embankment. We'll tie it to this kiavi tree, and then maybe, I didn't give him a time frame. We'll come back for it. He's like, okay, we'll do that. The net won that day. We had to give up. There was just no way that we could win this battle. But still, the entire time, he's like, Dad, when are we going back? He asked me the next day. I'm like, not today. And it's like, all right, then tomorrow. It's like, okay, tomorrow. It's like, we got to have a better plan, though, than us just going in there with sticks. He's like, all right, let's do this. Let's get some knives and some loppers, and we can cut it up, put it into contractor bags, and maybe we'll bring Mom along, and maybe she can help, and the three of us can get this done. I'm like, okay, I guess you have a plan. We'll see how this works. So we go down that Sunday morning, and we start lopping up, putting into smaller pieces. I mean, this thing is as big as an elephant, right? And how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. That's right. So we get into the contractor bags, smaller loads, and my wife Meredith stops people that are hiking back up. And it's like, hey, any way you could help us just a little bit? You know, we know this trail is tough, but maybe you could take like a small bag, and you don't have to take it far, you know, even 20 feet, just a little bit, maybe up one switchback. That'll be super helpful because we're trying to get the rest of this load out, and any little bit helps. People are from Austin and Portland and Kansas City. They say, sure, yeah, we can help you out a little bit. So they take it off and up they go. Finally, we get down the net down to this little small nub that we can carry. And we put it back on our little sticks and start marching it up as a stretcher. And Meredith has a load of a bag, and she's ready to pick up any of the others that we happen to see. So we go up, we make it past the next switchback. There's no contractor bags to be found. We're like, wow, like great, like all these people that were here to hike are helping. We keep on going up the next switchback, turn around. There's no bags. It's like, wow, like this is amazing. Like, and we did not make small bags for people to carry. Like we made really heavy bags. And everybody makes it, we keep on going up. We get to the last little turn. There are no bags to be found. We make that last little turn, we see the parking lot. Meredith has moved to tears. I would have been moved to tears, but I am huffing and puffing and just have nothing left inside after carrying this huge, heavy load behind us. And we get up to the top, and Auntie Sarah and Uncle Paul are up there going like, did you guys pull that net that was stuck in the middle of the trail all the way up? I said, well, we got this part, but you saw all the other people coming up with the black bags, right? It's like, yeah, we wondered what was going on. I says, all those people, they had the Spirit. They were helping. One little bit at a time. That's all we need to do. We can conquer these big problems. As they say, La Lima, right? Many hands make small work. That's what happened that day. And that's why it was so special, that in this Wahi Pana, that we got all these people visiting from Austin, Portland, Kansas City to help. They made a difference. They really, really made a difference. And we appreciated them helping make Hawaii a better place. So I'm telling you this story because today happens to be my son's birthday. So this is my little makana, my little gift for him. And so if you happen to see him, please wish him a happy International Women's Day.